Hi there, it's Mr. Clark. Welcome to lesson JAZ.3.3 on chord scale theory. So, it's all well and good to know what chord tones belong in each chord, but when you're improvising a solo, you don't want to just use the chord tones, because that can get boring. If there are extensions, there are plenty of chord tones to choose from, but, you want to know, maybe I want to improvise using some scales over these chords, and what scales should I use? So, in the 1950s, George Russell published a book called The Lydian Chromatic Concept of Tonal Organization. And the basic premise of the book is like, hey, what scales should I associate with different chords? This method of improvisation and theory conceptualization was very much popularized by Jamie Aebersold. If you've done any improvisation study or work, you've probably run across his name, his books, very popular way to think about it. And this method is still taught at institutions like Berkeley today. If you go back to the original book, it can get very heady very quickly, a little bit dogmatic about, like, this is the only possible right way to do things, which he was very much a true believer. I appreciate that. We're not going to go quite that deep into it here, but if you're interested, by all means, take a look at the original book. But the basic idea that we got is you're going to write out the chord tones, starting from the root, so that they fit within an octave. So here is as our example, we have our C major 13, sharp 11. That's not within an octave. Okay, so we're going to C, do we have a D? D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and then C. So we got a scale. So in this case, we don't actually need to worry about step 2. We don't need to fill in any passing tones because this chord forms a complete scale already. And then we look at the scale and try to identify it. Hopefully it's a mode of either the major or the melodic minor scale. Some chords might be associated with some of the other scales that we looked at, like pentatonic, blues scale, whole tone scale, octatonic or diminished scale. So here, it's just a C Lydian scale. Great. That was easy. So we are going to look here at a dominant 7th chord, your basic dominant 7th chord. You only have 4 notes, so C, some kind of D, E, some kind of F, G, some kind of A, B flat, C. So there are different ways we could possibly fill this in. One of the more common would be, well, okay, C is our root, so let's just keep it diatonic as much as possible, put in a D natural, F natural, A natural. Then you get your C Mixolydian scale. Totally works. Or you could say, maybe we spice it up a little bit. Maybe you put in an F sharp, and that would be a C Lydian dominant. That also totally works. Depending on your harmonic context, you might prefer one over the other. If you're dealing with something where several scales in a row can all fit this collection, like maybe we're going to an F major 7 next, then F, A, C, E natural, that all fits in that same chord. Maybe you want to keep the same scale over 2 chords that are right next to each other. You would not want to play the C Lydian dominant over an F major 7 because you have an F sharp clashing with your F that is the root. So like that would not be a good choice in that case. But look at the context, look and see if there are any scales common to multiple chords in a row. That might guide your choice. But on its own, either is totally fine. So there are other more exotic possibilities, of course. You could put in a diminished scale. That would be like C, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, A, B flat, C. So like stick 2 notes in there. That would also fit the chord tones that we have available. So I'm not going to read this out to you, but these are some possibilities. So non-exhaustive, you can always get more creative, table of chords with possible or common parent scales. So C major 7, if you are George Russell, it's always going to be Lydian. Only possible right answer. In practice, you also see Ionian, major pentatonic, and then you can go down the list, see what's common. It's an important improvisational tool, but don't lose sight of smooth voice leading between chords, especially if there are extensions present. See how they can smoothly lead from one chord tone, smoothly lead from one chord to the next, because the composers probably thought about that. It might even be why the extensions are there in the first place. And of course, you can always use chromatic non-chord tones as well to decorate your melodies. So this is just a guide, something to help you along as you're thinking about improvisation. And I'll see you next time to talk about a different conception of jazz harmony.